All right, welcome back to the Radical Independent. I'm Dave, and this is my channel, one of them anyway. Thanks for being here. So Lindsey Graham and a few other people are really ticked off at Germany, and Lindsey Graham is really upset because the Germans aren't pulling their weight as far as the war in Ukraine. Lindsey says, "I'm tired of this bleep show." It's a word that begins with S and ends in HIT. I wonder what old Lindsey could be referring to. Really crazy stuff from Lindsey, but really not surprising. Of course, this comes to us from Sputnik, a website you are not supposed to look at. Washington and Kiev fume as Berlin holds off on tanks for Ukraine. Man. So Washington and its allies have put pressure on Berlin to become the first continental European NATO power to send large quantities of heavy main battle tanks to Ukraine, despite fears that doing so would escalate tensions with Moscow. On Friday, U.S. and German officials announced that no decision on the tanks have been made. It says here, you may have heard the German Minister of Defense say earlier that they've not made a decision on the provision of Leopard tanks. This is SecDef Lloyd Austin, Friday at a very subdued joint press conference with Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley following a lengthy meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group at the Ramstein Air Base in Germany. What we've really focused on, and this is a very interesting paragraph, listen to this, is making sure that Ukraine has a capability. How about the capability? But a capability that it needs to be successful right now, meaning the tanks. So we have a window of opportunity here between now and the spring when whenever they commence their operation, their counteroffensive, and that's not a long time. So Milley here, or Austin, is basically saying, well, wait a minute, I am doing the preparation here. I'm in charge. And then he says, well, wait a minute, well, they're in charge. And then by the time we get to the final sentence, he says, and we have to pull together the right capabilities. That's Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense. So if you ever needed proof within a paragraph that the United States is, he says, it's just ridiculous. Well, we're not really having a war with Ukraine, Dave. We're just, we're helping them. We're doing some logistics. We're coordinating a few things. No. I believe we're running the entire show, and here's proof right here that Lloyd Austin has to stop himself mid-sentence and go from I to there and then to we. This is just pathetic. Anyway, the Pentagon chief added that he had no announcements on the supply of the U.S. gas-guzzling, jet engine-powered M1 Abrams tanks to Kiev either. It's good that we're fighting a green war in Ukraine. That the army went green, and we've got these jet engine-powered Abrams tanks, right? Gas guzzling, but hey, no big deal. Plenty of gas and petroleum products available for the U.S. military, not so much for the ordinary citizens in Germany. Who are using wood this year to kind of keep warm because, that whole pipeline thing, I don't know, that just blew up by itself, I guess. Anyway, Ukrainian officials did not hide their disappointment with Germany's perceived indecisiveness. Ukrainian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Melnik, the ex-ambassador to Germany, who was recalled over an endless string of insults of German officials, demanded that Berlin stop hiding behind Washington and put an end to this crazy Punch and Judy show which is different than the bleep show that Lindsey Graham was talking about here. But it's a show. I don't know if it's a good show, but it's a show. You can watch it as it unfolds, and it's can be kind of entertaining. This whole article to me is extremely entertaining, and you won't see this reported in any U.S. websites or any U.S. media for that matter. Anyway, this German ex-ambassador is really upset, and he wants to put an end to the crazy Punch and Judy show around leopards today at Ramstein and clear the way for a global tank coalition to empower Ukraine to kick out Russian troops. And there are the tanks in question, calling Berlin's calculation not to send tanks before the US does an embarrassment. Germany, this is embarrassing. What is Germany doesn't have its own supply of natural gas and power to keep its citizens warm this winter. But this is embarrassing that they're not sending the tanks, because all of this opposing, Russia's special military operation, which I think is now escalated, but I think they're still calling it a special military operation. But you oppose it, and the consequences are what? The consequences are you still don't have heat, and now you're going to send some of your finest military hardware into a war where these objects will probably be seized eventually by the Russian army. Just saying. I mean, at some point, they're either going to get blown up, they're going to get disabled, or, and then eventually maybe even be taken by the Russians, or at the very most, or at the very least, they're probably going to just get blown up, or they're going to get disabled. Anyway, freshly appointed German Minister Boris Pistorius has promised to check the Bundeswehr's armory to determine how many leopards it has and how many could be sent to Ukraine. How many do we have? 10. How many can we send to Ukraine? 10, but offered no firm commitments on deliveries. It's not prejudging the decision. It's simply preparing for the day that might come, Pistorius said Friday on the sidelines of the meeting at Ramstein. So they're saying it's not that we're not going to do it. It's just we haven't picked the right day to do it yet. But we're going to do it. Don't worry. They turn the heat back on here in Germany. Maybe we'll send a few tanks their way. The minister added that there were many allies within NATO who shares Berlin's apprehensions on sending tanks to Kiev. So maybe there's a little crack in the armor here. Just a little bit, as people start to get a little bit, less enthusiastic about this incredible war in Ukraine, where Ukraine is winning, right? They're winning every day. So I would be sending tanks left and right to support this effort. So I'm trying to get to the part. Oh, here it is. Here's the Lindsey Graham part. So I'm tired of the bleep show of who is going to send tanks and when they are going to send them. Hawkish. How about brainless South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham vented on Friday? To the Germans, send tanks to Ukraine because they need the tanks. It is in your interest that Putin loses in Ukraine. Yes, because losing your power supply, right? Because you're supporting Ukraine, you've been destroyed economically. So send some tanks. That's in your interest, to send tanks. It is in your interest that Putin loses in Ukraine. To the Biden administration, send tanks so that others will follow our lead, he urged. Yes, incredible. Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal echoed Graham's frustration. See, the uniparty. You got a liberal nut job in Connecticut, and you've got what? What's Lindsey? Is he conservative? What is he? We don't know. But you got these two guys just working together, propping up the military-industrial complex and bankrupting our own country. But Richard Blumenthal echoed Graham's frustration, demanding that NATO allies stop the confusion and the chaotic debate about who sends tanks and when. Man, can you guys just figure out this tank problem? Former Ukrainian presidential advisor Oleg Soskin accused Kiev's Western patrons of fooling Ukraine, alleging that the Russian president had intimidated them to such an extent that Biden, this wax mummy from Madame Tussauds and Scholz, will not give us anything. So this Ukrainian presidential advisor, former presidential advisor, Oleg Soskin, just called Biden a wax mummy from Madame Tussauds. Soskin also dismissed Washington's assertion that Abrams tanks are too heavy and difficult to maintain in the Ukrainian environment as excuses. Germany tells us we will not give you Leopards. Biden says we won't give you Abrams. They're heavy. This is nonsense, he said. Wow. Why is Germany hesitant? Because Germany has no electricity, or they have very expensive electricity. And it's wintertime. People want to keep warm in Germany. It says here, Germany doesn't want problems with Russia. That's the reality. So Germany has woken up to the fact that they'd like to cooperate with Russia. If Germany sends tanks, it will become too involved in the conflict, which will exacerbate the already difficult relationship with Russia. It's one thing to be Germany and have Russia as a neighbor, and another to be the United States and have the Atlantic Ocean between them. According to this person, Rosas, who is a professor of peace studies. Really? Wow. Amazing. So in any event, I could go on here. This is quite entertaining in a lot of different ways. This signals that Germany, as I think they've had enough of this. They've already seen what's happened thanks to this strong NATO alliance and this new world order, which is taking shape. I think Germany does at some point want to basically wave the white flag and say, hey, you know, we like having electricity. We like Russian natural gas. We'd like to get along with Russia. I think that would be the overwhelming sentiment of the Russian population. The elites that control all these countries, though, they have something in mind here, and it's certainly not peace in the region. They want this to be another 20-year war, much like Afghanistan was. So, again, you can check this out over at Sputnik News. You won't find articles like this anywhere else. And you could say, hey, this is a little over the top because this is pure Russian propaganda. No, it's not. It's just reporting on what the Germans and what Lindsey Graham are saying. Lindsey Graham is mad. He says this is a bleep show because Germany won't send tanks. And Lindsey Graham wants Joe Biden to send tanks to set an example for the rest of the world. And the world will follow. We'll all send tanks to Ukraine, and a brighter tomorrow will ensue after we send these tanks to Ukraine. Folks, if this wasn't so scary, it would be like perfect for, you know, Comedy Central or something, because it's just really, really ridiculous. All right, so that's the video, half serious, half entertainment. You can only get that kind of thing right here on The Radical Independent. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. We have some weird things, and this has happened really since the very beginning of this channel. Thanks to Scott Ritter and a few other great people that have shown up here. We've increased the number of subscribers substantially, which is amazing. We were stuck around 7,000. Now we're close to 12,000. And what still happens is we hit a number, and then that number slowly starts to tick backwards, like people are just mysteriously unsubscribing. And then another big interview happens and people subscribe, and then again it starts to tick backwards. Most channels, once they hit a certain number, the algorithm will recommend the channel and the content automatically. But there's definitely something like some sort of a preventive mechanism from allowing that to happen, some kind of a weird algorithm. So anyway, if you can subscribe to the channel, there's also a link to Patreon on the banner if you'd like to support the channel at $1 a month. That would be great. I really appreciate that. And the comments are on, but those comments are now being held for review because some of these comments coming in have nothing to do with the content on this particular channel. And some of them, shall we say, are personal attacks and things like that, ad hominem attacks, which again have nothing to do with the content. They have to do with the host, which would be me. And I would prefer people take what is said here seriously, whether it's on the war in Ukraine, whether it's libertarian leaning content, military strategy stuff, stuff about the World Health Organization. We had James Roguski on the other day. I think people need to look at the content and not be so concerned about the guy who's presenting the content, which would be me. So anyway, I appreciate the positive comments, and I will share those at some point. But that's on a when I feel like it basis. It doesn't have to be today. It could be tomorrow. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. For Lindsey Graham, I think you should resign. And there are a few other people that should resign, but Lindsey Graham, right at the top of that list. So there you have it. See you soon.